The diplomatic chamber aboard the Galactic Council station hummed with tension. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated pods, each one designed to accommodate their unique physiologies. The Kralix delegation, insectoid beings with chitinous armor that gleamed under the soft lights, had just finished their presentation about their homeworld's most fearsome predator. The Scythewing hunts in packs of 30. The Kralix ambassador chittered proudly. Their razor talons can slice through steel plating. On our world, they ruled the food chain for 3 million years before we developed plasma weapons. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the chamber. The Federation's annual Cultural Exchange Summit always included this particular discussion. Each species shared stories of their homeworld's apex predator, the creature that had shaped their evolution through fear and survival. Next came the Vorath, massive bear-like creatures covered in dense fur. Their representative stood on powerful hind legs and growled softly. The ice serpents of Vorath Prime grow to 40 meters in length. Their venom can paralyze a full-grown Vorath in seconds. They fear nothing and hunt alone. Many of our ancient warriors died trying to prove their courage against these beasts. The presentations continued. The aquatic delphinians spoke of the abyssal crushers that patrolled their ocean trenches. The silicon-based crystalline collective described the magma borers that swam through molten rock on their world. Each story was more terrifying than the last, filled with claws, fangs, venom, and raw predatory power. Finally, all eyes turned to the human delegation. Earth had joined the Galactic Federation only 6 months ago, and this was their first cultural exchange summit. The other species were curious about these strange bipedal mammals who had somehow achieved faster-than-light travel despite their apparent physical weakness. The human delegation consisted of 5 individuals. Ambassador Chen, a middle-aged diplomat with graying hair, sat at the center. Beside him were 2 scientists, a cultural liaison and a woman in a dark military uniform with multiple service ribbons across her chest. Her name tag read Petrov. Ambassador Chen stood and smiled politely. "Thank you for allowing us to participate in this tradition. Earth's ecosystem has produced many formidable predators throughout our history. Great white sharks, saltwater crocodiles, Siberian tigers, polar bears. Each one is a magnificent hunter in its own right." The Kralix ambassador clicked his mandibles impatiently. "But which is the apex predator? The one that sits atop your food chain?" Chen's smile didn't waver. "That's an interesting question. You see, on Earth, the concept of apex predator isn't quite as straightforward as it might be on other worlds. Different ecosystems have different apex predators. In the ocean, it might be the orca. On land, perhaps the lion or the bear, depending on the region." The Vorath representative huffed, steam rising from his nostrils. "Surely your species knows what you feared most during your evolution. What shaped your survival instincts? What made your ancestors hide in caves and tremble in the darkness?" Ambassador Chen glanced at the woman in the military uniform. She had been sitting quietly, her posture relaxed but somehow coiled like a spring waiting to release. Her dark eyes had been watching the other delegates with an intensity that made some of them uncomfortable. "Captain Petrov," Chen said, "perhaps you'd like to address this question." The woman stood slowly. She was of average height for a human, perhaps 170 centimeters tall, with a lean build that suggested athleticism rather than brute strength. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun. There was nothing obviously threatening about her appearance, which made several delegates exchange confused glances. Petrov walked to the center of the chamber, her boots making soft clicks on the polished floor. She looked around at the assembled species, meeting their various eyes, optical sensors, and sensory organs with calm confidence. "You want to know about Earth's apex predator," she said, her voice clear and steady. "The creature that shaped human evolution. The hunter that made our ancestors develop better tools, better strategies, better communication." The chamber fell silent. Every delegate leaned forward in anticipation. Petrov's lips curved into a slow smile. Then she raised her right hand, palm facing the delegates, fingers spread. The gesture meant nothing to most of the species present. The Kralix tilted their triangular heads in confusion. The Vorath snorted, thinking perhaps this was some strange human ritual. "I don't understand," the Kralix ambassador finally said. "What does this mean? Is this a symbol of your apex predator?" Petrov lowered her hand and clasped both behind her back, assuming a military rest position. "No," she said softly. "I am the apex predator." The chamber erupted in clicking, growling, and warbling. Several species began speaking at once, their translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Impossible, the Vorath delegate roared. You have no claws, no fangs, no venom. Your species is soft, weak. I could crush your skull with one paw. Your species has no natural armor, the Kralix ambassador added, mandibles clicking rapidly. No exoskeleton, no hardened plates. Your flesh is exposed, vulnerable. How can you claim to be an apex predator? Petrov waited for the noise to die down. Her expression remained calm, almost amused. You're measuring predation by the wrong metrics, she said. You're thinking about teeth and claws, about venom and armor, about raw physical power. She began walking slowly around the chamber's inner circle, her hands still clasped behind her back. On Earth, humans aren't the fastest runners. We're not the strongest fighters. We don't have the sharpest teeth or the most powerful bite. A human child could be killed by creatures 1/10 our size if we're not careful. Then how can you claim to be apex predators? A Delphinian representative burbled through their water-filled communication pod. Petrov stopped walking and faced them all again. Because we don't hunt like you do. We don't chase down prey in a single burst of speed. We don't ambush from hiding spots. We don't rely on venom or crushing strength. She paused, letting the suspense build. The delegates were utterly focused on her now, their earlier dismissiveness replaced by growing curiosity. We pursue, Petrov continued. A human hunter can track prey for days, weeks if necessary. Our ancestors would wound an animal and then follow it, walking steadily, never stopping until the creature collapsed from exhaustion or blood loss. No other predator on Earth hunts this way. It's called persistence hunting, and it made us terrifying. The crystalline collective's representative, a being of living crystal that communicated through light pulses, flickered a question. But surely your prey would escape. Petrov shook her head. We can track footprints days old. We can smell blood from kilometers away when the wind is right. We can see patterns in broken twigs and disturbed grass. And most importantly, we can think ahead. We know where the wounded animal will go because we understand how it thinks. She let that sink in before continuing. But that's not what makes humans truly apex predators. What makes us dangerous isn't how we hunt animals. It's how we hunt each other. The chamber had gone completely silent. Every species present understood warfare. But something in Petrov's tone suggested this wasn't going to be a typical discussion of military tactics. For most of human history, Petrov continued, our greatest threat wasn't animals. It was other humans. Rival tribes, enemy kingdoms, opposing nations. We spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing our own species. And unlike hunting animals for food, when humans fight each other, both sides are intelligent. Both sides adapt. Both sides learn. She walked to one of the chamber's large windows that looked out into space. This created an evolutionary arms race unlike anything else on our planet. We didn't just need to be better than animals. We needed to be better than other humans who were actively trying to kill us and who were just as smart as we were. The Vorath delegate shifted uncomfortably. Many species have intraspecies conflict. This is not unique to humans. True, Petrov agreed. But the scale and sophistication of human warfare is different. Let me give you an example. She turned back to face them. How many of your species have warriors who specialize in killing from distances so great the target never knows they're being hunted? The Kralix ambassador's antennae twitched. Our warriors use plasma rifles with effective ranges of 1,000 meters. Quite sufficient for any combat scenario. Petrov nodded. 1,000 meters, impressive. Now what if I told you that a human sniper, which is what I am, regularly makes kills from 2,000 meters, sometimes 3,000 meters, and in special cases, recorded kills have been made from over 3,500 meters. The numbers didn't immediately register with some species who use different measurement systems, but their translators quickly provided context. A wave of disbelief rippled through the chamber. That's impossible, the Delphinian representative burbled. At such distances, wind, gravity, the rotation of your planet itself would throw off any projectile. No organic being could compensate for all those variables. You're absolutely right, Petrov said. It should be impossible. That's what makes human snipers apex predators. We do the impossible as a matter of routine. She walked back to the center of the chamber. A sniper doesn't just point and shoot. We study meteorology, ballistics, physics, mathematics. We learn to read wind by watching grass move or feeling it on our skin. We calculate the Coriolis effect caused by Earth's rotation. We account for air density, humidity, temperature gradients. Ambassador Chen stood and pulled up a holographic display. If I may, Captain Petrov, let me show our colleagues what this looks like in practice. The hologram showed a barren landscape with rocky outcrops and scattered vegetation. A figure in camouflaged clothing lay prone on a ridge, completely motionless. At first, several delegates couldn't even spot the human sniper in the image. This is footage from a training exercise, Chen explained. The sniper has been in position for 14 hours. She hasn't moved except to adjust her weapon and take occasional sips of water. She's waiting for a target to appear at a known choke point. The hologram fast-forwarded, showing the sun moving across the sky. The sniper remained motionless. Finally, tiny figures appeared in the distance, barely visible even with the hologram's magnification. The targets are now visible, Chen said. They are 2,300 meters away. That's over 2 kilometers. From the sniper's position, they would appear smaller than a fingernail held at arm's length. The hologram showed a close-up of the sniper's face. Her eye was pressed to a scope, her breathing slow and controlled. Numbers and readouts appeared beside her, showing wind speed, temperature, range, and dozens of other variables. The sniper is now calculating the shot, Chen continued. She's accounting for wind at multiple altitudes between her position and the target. She's compensating for the drop in the projectile over that distance. She's even considering the rate of her own heartbeat to time the shot between beats for maximum stability. The delegates watched in fascination as the sniper made minute adjustments to her weapon. Then she went completely still. For 3 seconds, she didn't even appear to breathe. Then came a barely visible muzzle flash. The hologram switched to show the distant targets. 2.5 seconds after the shot, one of the figures dropped. The others scattered, having no idea where the attack had come from. Impact confirmed at 2,312 meters, Chen said quietly. The bullet traveled at supersonic speeds, taking 2.6 seconds to reach the target. During that time, it dropped over 15 meters due to gravity and drifted nearly 3 meters due to wind. The sniper compensated for all of this mentally. The crystalline collective representative pulsed a series of questions. How is this possible? The computations required would take our tactical computers several seconds to process. You claim an organic mind did this? Petrov spoke up. Not just any organic mind. A trained human mind. I started learning marksmanship at age 8. I began sniper training at 20. I've spent 15 years perfecting these skills. And I'm not exceptional among human snipers. I'm simply competent. The Vorath delegate had been quiet for several minutes, but now he spoke, his voice less aggressive than before. This is disturbing. You strike from distances where your enemy cannot possibly retaliate. They cannot see you, cannot hear you, cannot fight back. This seems dishonorable. Petrov met his gaze steadily. War isn't about honor. It's about survival and victory. A sniper's job isn't to fight fair. It's to eliminate high-value targets with minimal risk to friendly forces. One sniper can change the course of a battle by removing enemy commanders, communication specialists, or heavy weapons operators. She pulled up another hologram, this one showing a historical battle from Earth. This is from one of our wars about 80 years ago. A single sniper held an entire enemy battalion at bay for 3 days. Over 700 enemy soldiers. And they couldn't advance because one man with a rifle kept killing anyone who moved. They called for artillery, tanks, airstrikes. Nothing worked. He was too well hidden, too patient, too skilled. The Kralix ambassador leaned forward. What happened to this sniper? He eventually retreated when his ammunition ran low, Petrov said. He survived the war and became a national hero. My point is that humans developed this level of precision because we had to. When your enemy is as intelligent as you are, you need every advantage you can get. Ambassador Chen added, sniping is just one example. Humans have also perfected ambush tactics, psychological warfare, guerrilla combat, siege warfare, naval warfare, aerial combat, and dozens of other specialized forms of conflict. We've written thousands of books on military strategy, some dating back over 2,000 years that are still studied today. The chamber remained quiet as the delegates processed this information. Finally, the Delphinian representative spoke, their voice uncharacteristically subdued. You said you are an apex predator, but you are describing yourself as if you are a weapon, not a living being. Petrov's expression softened slightly. That's an astute observation. Human snipers do think of ourselves as weapons in a way, but we're weapons that think, adapt, and feel. We're not machines. We're predators who learn to hunt with our minds as much as our bodies. She gestured to the window again. Every species here evolved to survive their homeworld. You developed armor, venom, strength, speed. Humans developed endurance, adaptability, and the capacity for extreme patience combined with sudden, decisive action. We learned to wait days for a single perfect moment. We learned to think like our prey, to predict behavior, to exploit weakness. The Vorath delegate rumbled deep in his chest, a sound that indicated deep thought among his species. You speak of patience. This is admirable. But patience alone does not make an apex predator. The ice serpents of my world are also patient, waiting beneath the snow for weeks if necessary. Petrov nodded respectfully. True, but do the ice serpents study their prey's habits for months before striking? Do they keep detailed records of migration patterns, feeding schedules, social hierarchies? Do they adapt their tactics based on whether their prey has encountered other ice serpents recently? The Vorath fell silent. Human snipers don't just wait, Petrov continued. We research. Before I take a shot in an urban environment, I study maps of the area going back decades. I learn traffic patterns, local customs, daily routines of the population. I identify escape routes and fallback positions. I prepare for dozens of different scenarios. She pulled up another hologram, this one showing a dense cityscape. This is a real mission I executed 3 years ago, before humanity made first contact with your Federation. The target was a warlord who controlled a city through fear and violence. He had killed thousands of civilians. My mission was to remove him. The hologram zoomed into a specific building. I arrived in the city 4 weeks before the operation. I rented an apartment 6 blocks from the target's compound. I worked as a street vendor selling fruit, which gave me a reason to be visible and mobile in the area. The Kralix ambassador's mandibles clicked. You spent 4 weeks preparing for a single shot? Why not simply use explosives or a drone strike? Collateral damage, Petrov replied simply. The warlord surrounded himself with civilians, including children he'd taken as hostages. Any explosive device would have killed innocents. My mission parameters were clear. Remove the target, harm no civilians. She advanced the hologram, showing the sniper position she'd chosen. It was inside an abandoned warehouse 3 floors up, with a narrow window facing the compound. I observed the target for 23 days. I learned his routine. He appeared on his balcony every morning at sunrise to address his followers. The speech lasted approximately 4 minutes. He was surrounded by guards, but for exactly 17 seconds during his speech he stepped forward away from cover to gesture at the crowd. The delegates watched as the hologram played the actual event. Petrov, dressed as a local laborer, entered the abandoned warehouse before dawn carrying what appeared to be construction materials. Inside was a carefully concealed rifle case. She assembled her weapon with practiced efficiency, never wasting a motion. The shot was 1,843 meters, Petrov narrated. Wind was variable, switching between 3 and 7 kilometers per hour. Temperature was rising rapidly as the sun came up, creating thermal gradients that would affect the bullet's trajectory. The humidity was high due to morning fog. In the hologram, she settled into position, making her calculations. The target appeared on the balcony right on schedule. She waited, watching, breathing slowly. The target began his speech. 30 seconds passed. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Then the target stepped forward, his arms spreading wide as he shouted to the crowd below. Petrov fired. The hologram showed the bullet's path traced in red, arcing through the air. 2.5 seconds later, the warlord collapsed. His guards rushed forward, but Petrov was already disassembling her rifle. Within 3 minutes, she was out of the building, the weapon concealed, walking calmly through the chaotic streets as people rushed toward the compound. The local government attributed his death to a rival faction, Chen explained. Civil war was avoided. The hostages were released by the confused guards. Civilian casualties 0. Mission time from first observation to confirmed kill, 23 days, 6 hours, 12 minutes. The chamber was utterly silent. The Delphinian representative finally spoke, their voice wavering slightly. You spent almost a month preparing to end a single life. This level of dedication to killing is necessary, Petrov finished. When you're an apex predator hunting the most dangerous prey in the universe, other intelligent beings, there is no room for error. Every variable must be controlled. Every contingency must be planned. One mistake means mission failure, and mission failure often means innocent people die. The crystalline collective pulsed rapidly, their equivalent of agitated speech. But this also means humans are incredibly dangerous. You've essentially described yourself as an assassin who can eliminate targets from distances they cannot possibly defend against. Ambassador Chen stepped forward, his diplomatic instincts sensing the growing concern. Captain Petrov's skills and those of snipers like her are tools. Like any tool, they can be used for good or ill. The warlord she eliminated had murdered thousands. Her action saved lives. But the same skills could eliminate political leaders, scientists, anyone deemed inconvenient, the Kralix ambassador pointed out. You've just demonstrated that humans possess the ability to kill anyone, anywhere, at any time, with no warning and no chance of retaliation. Petrov met the Kralix's compound eyes without flinching. Yes, that's exactly what I've demonstrated. Because you asked what Earth's apex predator is. This is the answer. Not because we have the sharpest claws or the deadliest venom, but because we have the intelligence, patience, and will to hunt anything, anywhere, under any conditions. She gestured around the chamber. Every species here developed their apex predator characteristics through millions of years of evolution. Humans did too, but our evolution was different. We didn't develop physical weapons. We developed mental ones. Problem-solving, pattern recognition, abstract thinking, emotional control, extreme patience combined with sudden decisive action. And we learned to craft tools, Chen added. The rifle Captain Petrov uses is the product of centuries of human engineering. Metallurgy, chemistry, physics, precision manufacturing. We took our intelligence and used it to create physical extensions of our will. The Vorath delegate spoke, his voice thoughtful now rather than aggressive. I begin to understand why your species achieved spaceflight so quickly after discovering your first radio signals. You are not physically impressive, but mentally you are formidable. We had to be, Petrov said quietly. Earth wasn't an easy world. We evolved alongside creatures that could kill us easily in direct combat. Large cats, bears, crocodiles, even some primates stronger than us. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, more relentless. We learned that we didn't need to win a fight in the first 5 seconds. We could win it in the first 5 hours or 5 days or 5 weeks. She walked slowly around the chamber again, making eye contact with each delegate. When I was asked what Earth's apex predator is, I raised my hand not as a boast but as a statement of fact. Humans are persistence hunters who evolved intelligence as their primary survival tool. We can track prey across any terrain. We can improvise weapons from any available materials. We can endure conditions that would kill most species. And most dangerously, she continued, we can work together. A pack of scythewings hunts together instinctively. Human soldiers work together through training, communication, and trust built over years. We can coordinate attacks across entire continents, timing strikes to the second. We can plan operations that take years to execute. We can keep secrets for decades. The implications of this hung heavy in the air. The delegates were beginning to realize that humanity's admission to the Federation had brought something unprecedented into their midst. Not a species with overwhelming physical power or advanced technology far beyond their own, but something perhaps more concerning. A species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of killing its own kind. The Kralix ambassador stood, his chitinous plates shifting as he moved. I must confess, Captain Petrov, that your presentation has been deeply unsettling. You describe humans as if you are natural-born killers, evolved specifically for warfare. Petrov considered this carefully before responding. Not just for warfare. Humans are evolved for survival through adaptation. Warfare is simply one application of our core traits. The same patience that makes me an effective sniper makes human scientists spend decades researching a single problem. The same pattern recognition that helps me read wind and terrain helps human artists create beauty. The same persistence that lets us track prey for days helps human parents care for helpless infants for years. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We are not evil. We are not mindless killers. We are survivors who happened to evolve in a way that made us very, very good at eliminating threats. Sometimes those threats are animals hunting us. Sometimes they're environmental hazards. And sometimes, unfortunately, they're other humans who wish us harm. Ambassador Chen added, it's worth noting that despite humanity's capacity for violence, we've also developed complex ethical systems, international laws of war, and strong prohibitions against unnecessary killing. Captain Petrov doesn't eliminate targets for pleasure or profit. She serves her nation, and now she serves humanity's interests in the broader galaxy. The Delphinian representative shifted in their water-filled pod. But how can we trust humans? You've demonstrated abilities that make every species in this chamber vulnerable. Any one of us could be eliminated by a human sniper before we even knew we were threatened. That's true of any species with sufficient technology, Chen replied. The Kralix could deploy their plasma weapons against civilian populations. The Vorath have kinetic weapons that could destroy cities. The Crystalline Collective possesses energy manipulation abilities that could devastate orbital stations. Every species in the Federation has the capacity for tremendous violence. We choose not to use it because we've all agreed to peaceful coexistence. Petrov stepped forward again. Let me tell you what else makes humans apex predators. It's not just our ability to kill. It's our ability to choose not to kill. This statement confused several delegates, their various sensory organs focusing on her intently. I've had opportunities to take over 800 confirmed shots in my career. Petrov explained, I've only taken 73. Every other time I determined the shot wasn't necessary, the intelligence was questionable, or there was risk of collateral damage. Every human sniper I know has similar statistics. We could kill far more often than we do. We choose restraint. She pulled up another hologram, this one showing a tense standoff situation. Armed individuals faced each other across a barricaded street. This was a hostage situation 2 years ago. Terrorists had taken 42 civilians hostage in an embassy. They demanded ransom and safe passage. My team was positioned with clear shots on multiple targets. The hologram showed several sniper positions marked in red. Each had clear lines of fire into the building. We waited for 16 hours, Petrov continued. Not because we couldn't take the shots. We could have eliminated all visible hostiles in the first 30 minutes. We waited because our negotiators believed they could resolve the situation peacefully. And they did. After 16 hours, the hostiles surrendered. All 42 hostages survived. We never fired a shot. So you are saying humans possess deadly force but prefer not to use it? The Vorath delegate asked. Exactly, Chen confirmed. This is actually central to human military philosophy. The strongest warrior is the one who wins without fighting. The deadliest weapon is the one that never needs to be fired because its mere existence prevents conflict. Petrov nodded. Every sniper team I've trained with understands this principle. Our primary mission is not to kill, it's to protect. Sometimes protection requires lethal force. Often it doesn't. The skill is knowing the difference and having the discipline to act accordingly. The Crystalline Collective pulsed a question. Then why develop such lethal capabilities if you prefer not to use them? Because predators that lose their edge become prey, Petrov said simply. Throughout human history, peaceful civilizations that neglected their martial abilities were conquered by more aggressive neighbors. We learned that the price of peace is eternal vigilance and the capacity for overwhelming violence when necessary. We prepare for war so we can preserve peace. She walked to the window again, looking out at the stars. When humanity detected the first Federation broadcasts, we had no idea what we would find out here. We hoped for peaceful contact, but prepared for the possibility of hostile aliens. We trained soldiers, built weapons, planned defensive strategies, not because we wanted war, but because we refused to be vulnerable. And now that you've found the Federation is peaceful, the Kralix ambassador asked. We're relieved, Chen answered honestly. Humanity has no interest in galactic conquest. We want to trade, learn, share knowledge, and coexist peacefully with our neighbors. Captain Petrov and soldiers like her will hopefully never need to use their skills in defense of humanity, but they remain ready, just in case. The Vorath delegate leaned back in his pod, his massive form settling into a more relaxed position. I believe I understand now. You are apex predators not because you are the most violent, but because you are the most dangerous when necessary. Like the ice serpents that can remain dormant for years but strike with lethal precision when they finally move. That's an excellent analogy. Petrov agreed. Humans can be patient, peaceful, cooperative, and gentle for years or even generations. But when pushed, when our survival or the survival of innocence is at stake, we can become utterly ruthless, and unlike many predators that exhaust themselves in a single burst of violence, humans can maintain operational tempo for years if necessary. She pulled up historical data. The longest war in human history lasted over 100 years. Both sides maintained armies, strategies, and combat operations across generations. The soldiers who started the war were long dead before it ended, but their descendants continued fighting. This is persistence hunting taken to its logical extreme. The delegates absorbed this information with varying degrees of unease. The Delphinian spoke again, their tone more respectful now. You have certainly answered our question about Earth's apex predator. But you have also raised new questions. If humans are such effective predators, what prevents you from hunting us? Petrov turned to face them directly. The same thing that prevented me from shooting 800 times when I had clear shots. Choice, morality, ethics, empathy. Humans don't hunt for sport. We hunt for survival, protection, or justice. None of those reasons apply to our relationship with the Federation. Additionally, Chen interjected, humanity recognizes that we're the newcomers here. You've built a civilization spanning hundreds of star systems over thousands of years. We have much to learn from you. Predatory behavior would be counterproductive to our goals. But more fundamentally, Petrov added, humans are social predators. We evolved to work in groups, to form alliances, to cooperate with others for mutual benefit. The same instincts that made our ancestors hunt in coordinated packs now make us value diplomatic relationships and international cooperation. She gestured around the chamber. Every species here has something humanity needs. Technology, knowledge, resources, perspectives we've never considered. You're not prey to us. You're potential allies, teachers, and friends. Apex predators are intelligent enough to know the difference. The Kralix ambassador clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. A predator that can choose to become an ally. This is an unusual concept, is it? Chen asked. Don't the Kralix have domesticated animals, species you've formed symbiotic relationships with? We do, the Kralix admitted. But those are lesser beings, not sapient species. The principle is the same, Chen said. You recognize that cooperation was more valuable than predation. Humans make the same calculation with sapient species. We gain far more through cooperation than we ever could through conflict. The discussion had shifted atmosphere. What began as a typical cultural exchange presentation had become something more significant. The delegates were no longer just curious about human culture. They were evaluating humanity's place in the galactic community with new understanding. The Vorath delegate spoke, his deep voice carrying a note of what might have been respect. Captain Petrov, you have been forthright about human capabilities. Let me ask you something more personal. When you look at us, at the assembled species of the Federation, do you see potential threats? Do your predator instincts evaluate us as targets? Petrov considered the question seriously. Honestly? Yes, it's not something I consciously choose to do. It's ingrained from years of training. When I entered this chamber, I automatically identified exits, cover positions, potential threats, and defensive strategies. I noted which species have weapons, which have natural defenses, where the vulnerabilities are in the station's structure. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably at this admission. But, Petrov continued, I also immediately began forming assessments of character. I noted that the Kralix delegation positioned themselves to have clear views of all other species, suggesting either tactical awareness or social anxiety. I observed that the Vorath delegate sits in a reinforced pod despite being physically imposing, suggesting your culture values protocol over displays of strength. I saw that the Delphinian chose a position near the environmental controls, indicating concern for maintaining optimal conditions. She smiled slightly. These observations aren't about targeting. They're about understanding. Human predatory instincts evolve to read behavior, predict actions, and assess situations rapidly. In modern times, these same instincts help us with diplomacy, negotiation, and social interaction. I use them to understand you better, not to threaten you. The Delphinian relaxed slightly in their pod. So your predatory nature informs your social behavior. Exactly, Chen confirmed. Humans are often called social hunters. Our ancestors hunted in groups that required complex communication, role assignment, and coordinated action. The same brain structures that helped us plan hunts now help us navigate politics, economics, and social relationships, Petrov added. When I'm teaching new snipers, I spend as much time on ethics and rules of engagement as I do on marksmanship. Being able to take a shot is the easy part. Knowing when to take it, when to hold fire, when to call off a mission entirely. That's what separates a sniper from a murderer. She walked closer to the assembled delegates. Let me share something most humans don't even realize about themselves. We have a psychological mechanism called empathy. We can imagine what others are feeling, put ourselves in their position, feel their pain or joy as if it were our own. This trait evolved because social hunters needed to predict their packmates' actions and maintain group cohesion. Many species have empathy, the Kralix ambassador noted. True, Petrov agreed. But human empathy extends beyond our own species. We feel empathy for animals, even for things we hunt. We have ceremonies and rituals to honor prey animals, thanking them for their sacrifice. We create laws protecting endangered species, sometimes at great cost to ourselves. We rescue injured animals that pose no benefit to us. She paused, letting this sink in. This means when I look at you, at all of you, I don't just see potential targets or tactical considerations. I see people. Individuals with thoughts, feelings, families, hopes. My predatory instincts are tempered by my empathy. I could theoretically eliminate any individual in this room, but the very thought distresses me because I recognize your personhood. The crystalline collective pulsed brightly, their equivalent of an excited revelation. So human predatory efficiency is balanced by strong prosocial emotions? This is a remarkable adaptation, deadly capability combined with moral restraint. It's not always balanced, Chen admitted. Human history is filled with atrocities where empathy failed and predatory instincts went unchecked. We've committed genocides, massacres, and unnecessary violence. We're not claiming moral superiority, but we've learned from these mistakes. Modern human society emphasizes education, ethical training, and institutional safeguards to ensure our dangerous capabilities are controlled. Petrov nodded. Every human soldier undergoes extensive psychological screening and ethical training. We're taught international laws of armed conflict. We're held accountable for our actions. If I were to misuse my skills, I would be prosecuted by my own government. We police ourselves because we understand the danger we represent. The Vorath delegate rumbled thoughtfully. You are predators who have domesticated yourselves. That's one way to put it, Chen said with a slight smile. We've created cultural and legal frameworks that channel our predatory instincts toward productive ends while suppressing destructive impulses. It's an ongoing process, not a completed state. Every generation must relearn these lessons. The Kralix ambassador stood again, his posture different now, less defensive. Captain Petrov, when you raised your hand earlier and claimed to be Earth's apex predator, many of us thought it was arrogance or a misunderstanding. I now realize it was simple honesty. You are indeed apex predators, perhaps more dangerous than any species in this federation. But, the Vorath added, you are also more trustworthy than we initially feared. A predator that acknowledges its nature and actively works to control it is safer than one that denies what it is. Petrov inclined her head respectfully. Thank you. That means a great deal. Humanity knows we're dangerous. We don't pretend otherwise. But we're committed to being responsible members of the galactic community. Our predatory traits are tools we control, not instincts that control us. The Delphinian representative made a gesture of agreement in their pod. I believe I speak for many here when I say this presentation has been enlightening, if somewhat frightening. We understand humanity better now. You are welcomed into the Federation not despite your predatory nature, but with full awareness of it. Ambassador Chen smiled. That's all we can ask for. Honest understanding and fair treatment. Humanity doesn't want to be feared, but we also don't want to be underestimated or misunderstood. We are what evolution made us, but we're also what we choose to be. Petrov turned to address all the delegates at once. I'll leave you with this thought. Yes, humans are apex predators. Yes, we're dangerous. But we're also explorers, artists, scientists, philosophers, parents, friends. Our predatory traits gave us the tools to survive and thrive, but our humanity gives us the wisdom to use those tools responsibly. She gestured to the stars visible through the chamber windows. We didn't come to the galaxy to hunt. We came to discover, to learn, to grow. The same persistence that makes us effective predators also makes us relentless in pursuing knowledge. The same pattern recognition that helps us track prey helps us solve scientific problems. The same cooperation that made us pack hunters makes us natural allies and partners. Earth's apex predator isn't just a killer, Petrov concluded. It's a thinker, a creator, a protector. We hunt when necessary, but we'd much rather build, explore, and befriend. That's the complete answer to your question about what Earth's apex predator is. We're complex beings with dangerous capabilities and the moral framework to use them wisely. The chamber fell into a contemplative silence. The Cultural Exchange Summit had delivered far more than anyone expected. The delegates had come expecting stories of animals with fangs and claws. Instead, they'd received a profound lesson about a species that had evolved intelligence and morality alongside lethality. Finally, the Kralix ambassador spoke. "This has been the most remarkable presentation in the 15 years I've attended these summits. Captain Petrov, Ambassador Chen, you have given us much to consider. I believe I speak for all present when I say that humanity's membership in the Federation is not just welcomed, but valued. You bring unique perspectives and capabilities that will strengthen us all." There were various sounds and gestures of agreement from around the chamber. The Vorath delegate stood and gave a formal bow, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. The Delphinian flashed colors of approval through their tank. Even the usually reserved crystalline collective pulsed brightly in what their species considered enthusiastic agreement. Ambassador Chen stood and bowed to the assembly. "Thank you all for your openness and willingness to understand humanity honestly. We look forward to proving ourselves worthy of your trust and to contributing to the Federation's continued peace and prosperity." Petrov remained standing at attention, her military bearing perfect, but there was a slight smile on her face. She had done what she came to do, not just answer a question about apex predators, but help the galaxy understand what humanity truly was. Dangerous, yes, but also disciplined, ethical, and committed to something greater than mere survival. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out, several approached the human delegation to speak further. The Vorath wanted to discuss hunting traditions and ethical frameworks. The Kralix were interested in human military training methods. The Delphinian asked about human marine biology and ocean conservation efforts. 3 weeks after the Cultural Exchange Summit, Captain Petrov found herself in an unexpected situation. She had been invited to the Kralix homeworld as part of a military exchange program. The Kralix High Command wanted to observe human combat training methods firsthand, and Petrov had been selected as the primary instructor for a joint exercise. The Kralix training facility was unlike anything on Earth. Massive crystalline structures jutted from the ground, creating a forest of sharp, translucent pillars. The atmosphere was thinner than Earth standard, and the gravity was slightly higher. Petrov wore a light rebreather mask and compression suit to compensate, but she moved with her usual fluid efficiency. Waiting for her were 12 Kralix warriors, their chitinous armor gleaming in the light of their twin suns. Each stood nearly 2.5 meters tall, with forearms that ended in natural weapons sharp enough to cut through steel. They carried plasma rifles that could melt through armor plating. They were, by any objective measure, far more physically dangerous than any human. The commander of the unit, a grizzled veteran named Thexelar, approached Petrov. His mandibles clicked in what the translation device rendered as skeptical amusement. "So the soft-skin apex predator has come to teach Kralix warriors about combat. This should be entertaining." There was no hostility in his tone, but there was clear doubt. His warriors chittered among themselves, their body language suggesting they considered this a waste of time. Petrov set down her equipment case and smiled calmly. "Commander Thexlar, thank you for hosting me. I understand your skepticism. Your warriors are impressive physical specimens with natural weapons and advanced technology. Why would you need to learn anything from a species like mine?" Thexlar's antennae twitched, surprised by her directness. "You understand our perspective." "Of course," Petrov replied. "If I were in your position, I'd have the same doubts. So let me propose a demonstration. Your 12 best warriors against one human. A combat exercise using non-lethal training protocols." The Kralix warriors clicked and chittered excitedly. This was unexpected. Thexlar's mandibles spread in his species' version of a grin. "You wish to fight 12 of my warriors simultaneously? Captain Petrov, I respect your courage, but this seems unwise. Even with training safeties, you could be seriously injured." "I'll take that risk," Petrov said. "But let's make it interesting. I won't use any weapons. No firearms, no blades, no technology you don't have. Just my training and my understanding of human predatory tactics." Now the Kralix were openly amused. Several made clicking sounds that translated as laughter. Even Thexlar seemed concerned. "Captain, this is suicide. My warriors weigh 3 times what you do. Their exoskeletons are natural armor. Their reflexes are faster than human baseline. Even unarmed, they could crush you." "Then it should be an easy victory for them," Petrov said simply. Shall we begin? Thexlar studied her for a long moment, then clicked his agreement. Very well. But I'm setting the training weapons to minimum output and requiring medical monitors for you. I will not have an interspecies incident because of human pride. Agreed, Petrov said. She began removing unnecessary equipment, stripping down to her compression suit. She looked even smaller and more vulnerable without her uniform and gear. The Kralix warriors towered over her, their confidence visible in their posture. The training ground was a 1-kilometer square arena filled with the crystalline pillars, rocky outcrops, and scattered vegetation. It was designed to simulate the varied terrain of the Kralix homeworld. Thexlar explained the rules. Non-lethal force only. Contact with training sensors would register as hits. The exercise would continue until either Petrov was disabled or all 12 warriors were neutralized. One more thing, Petrov said as they prepared to start. Could you disable my translation device and give me a local communicator on the same frequency your warriors use? Thexlar's antennae waved in confusion. You don't speak Kralix. You won't understand anything we say. Exactly, Petrov smiled. Now thoroughly confused but intrigued, Thexlar agreed. The translation device was removed and Petrov was given a basic comm unit. The 12 warriors spread out across the arena, taking strategic positions. They could communicate freely with each other, coordinating their movements and tactics. Petrov stood alone at the center of the arena, looking small and isolated. A horn sounded to begin the exercise. The Kralix warriors immediately began their assault. Moving with the practiced efficiency of experienced soldiers, they communicated constantly, their clicking and chittering filling the comm channel as they coordinated flanking maneuvers. 3 approached from the front, drawing Petrov's attention while others circled to attack from her blind spots. It was a solid tactic that should have worked. But Petrov was already moving. She didn't run toward cover. Instead, she ran directly at the 3 warriors approaching from the front. The Kralix were surprised but confident. 3 against 1 with superior strength and reach. This would be over in seconds. Petrov closed the distance with startling speed, then dropped into a slide at the last second, passing under the first warrior's reaching arms. As she slid past, she struck the warrior's primary joint with a precise blow that destabilized him. The warrior stumbled, and Petrov rolled to her feet behind him, using his large body as a shield against the others. The comm channel exploded with clicking as the warriors tried to reposition. Petrov couldn't understand the words, but she didn't need to. She was listening to the rhythm, the patterns, the emotions in their voices. Excitement meant someone had found an angle of attack. Frustration meant someone was blocked. Questions were requests for instruction or clarification. She was reading their communication like a human sniper reads wind. Not understanding the meaning, but understanding the effect. The second warrior tried to circle around his stumbling comrade. Petrov moved with him, maintaining the larger Kralix as a barrier. She struck again, this time hitting training sensors on the first warrior's back. He was registered as neutralized and withdrew from the exercise, chittering in surprise. 11 left. The remaining warriors adapted quickly. They began moving in tighter formation, denying Petrov the opportunity to isolate targets. They spread out vertically as well, using the crystalline pillars to approach from multiple heights. It was textbook small unit tactics, and it should have been overwhelming. But Petrov wasn't trying to fight them directly. She was manipulating them. She ran toward a cluster of pillars, the warriors pursuing. Their comm chatter increased, coordinating the pursuit. Petrov climbed rapidly, her smaller size and lighter weight making her more agile on the crystal structures. The Kralix followed, their strength allowing them to climb even faster despite their bulk. Petrov reached a high pillar and then jumped, not to another pillar, but down, executing a controlled fall that would have been dangerous for the heavier Kralix. She landed, rolled, and was already moving before her pursuers could adjust. 2 warriors tried to jump down after her. One landed successfully. The other miscalculated, landing awkwardly and triggering his own injury sensors. 10 left. For the next 30 minutes, Petrov led the Kralix warriors on a chase through the arena. She never stopped moving, never engaged in direct combat unless she had overwhelming positional advantage. She used the terrain, their own bulk and strength against them. She listened to their communications, learning their patterns even without understanding their language. When they got frustrated and aggressive, she became more evasive. When they became cautious and coordinated, she forced them to act quickly with feints and attacks that broke their formations. She was playing them like an instrument, conducting a symphony of tactical responses. One by one, the Kralix warriors fell. Not through direct combat, but through exhaustion, overextension, and tactical errors Petrov exploited ruthlessly. She struck sensors when opportunities appeared, always from unexpected angles. She used their own warriors as obstacles against their comrades. She forced them to waste energy on wild chases that went nowhere. After 90 minutes, only 2 Kralix warriors remained active. They were exhausted, their movements sluggish. They had been pursuing a target that seemed impossible to pin down, fighting an enemy who refused to engage on their terms. Petrov, meanwhile, showed signs of fatigue but remained quick and alert. The final 2 warriors tried one last coordinated assault. They came from opposite directions, timing their attack to catch Petrov between them. It was their best tactical move of the entire exercise. Under normal circumstances, it would have worked, but Petrov had been listening to their communications for 90 minutes. She had learned the rhythm of their language, the patterns of their coordination signals. Even without understanding the words, she heard the attack being planned. She heard the countdown in their clicking tones. When they charged, she was already moving, rolling under one warrior's grasp and striking his leg sensor as she passed. He went down, registered as neutralized. The last warrior lunged at her, but his exhaustion made him slow. Petrov sidestepped and struck the final sensor on his back. The exercise was over. All 12 Kralix warriors had been neutralized by a single unarmed human. The arena fell silent except for the heavy breathing of the exhausted Kralix. Thexlar approached slowly, his antennae waving in what could only be described as stunned disbelief. Petrov stood at the center of the arena, breathing hard but still upright, her compression suit damp with sweat. "How?" Thexlar asked simply. His translation device rendered his tone as somewhere between awe and confusion. "How did you defeat 12 trained warriors? You are smaller, weaker, have no natural weapons. You didn't even understand our language." Petrov accepted a water container from a training assistant and took a long drink before answering. "Commander, your warriors are excellent soldiers. Strong, fast, well-coordinated. They should have won that engagement easily. But they were fighting the wrong battle." She walked over to where the defeated warriors were recovering. "They were trying to catch me, to overpower me with strength and numbers. That's predator thinking based on ambush and overwhelming force. It works beautifully when hunting prey that can't think like you do. But humans are persistence hunters," she continued. "We don't try to win in the first minute. We don't need to be stronger or faster. We just need to outlast our opponent and exploit their mistakes. Your warriors made very few mistakes, but over 90 minutes a few mistakes were enough." Thexlar clicked thoughtfully. "You were studying us, learning our patterns." "Exactly," Petrov confirmed. "I listened to your communications. I watched how you coordinated. I learned which warriors were aggressive, which were cautious, which deferred to others. I couldn't understand your language, but language is just one form of communication. Timing, tone, emotion, these are universal." She gestured to the terrain. "I also used persistence tactics. Humans evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can't sprint as fast as most animals, but we can jog for hours. Your warriors are built for power and short bursts of speed. After an hour of constant movement, they were tired. I was tired too, but I'm evolved for this kind of endurance." One of the defeated warriors, a younger soldier, clicked a question. His translator rendered it. "But you knew you were weaker. Why not avoid combat entirely?" "Because avoiding combat indefinitely isn't victory," Petrov explained. "It's survival which is important, but not the same thing. I needed to neutralize you, not just escape you. So I combined persistence with tactical thinking. I made you chase me, exhausted you, and only engaged when I had overwhelming positional advantage." Thexlar's mandibles clicked in something like laughter. "You hunted us. 12 warriors hunting one human. But somehow you were hunting us." "That's the nature of apex predators," Petrov said with a slight smile. "We don't just react to threats. We manipulate them, exhaust them, and strike when they're vulnerable. Your warriors are magnificent soldiers, but they've been training to fight other Kralix or similar species. They weren't prepared for a completely different approach to combat." The commander nodded slowly. "This is why you came here. Not to prove humans are superior, but to show us that different doesn't mean weak. There are many ways to be dangerous." "Precisely," Petrov agreed. "The Federation has hundreds of species. each with unique capabilities. The Kraliks have strength and natural weapons. Humans have endurance and tactical adaptability. The Vorath have raw power. The Delphinians have three-dimensional combat experience from living in oceans. Every species brings something different to the table. She addressed all the warriors now. If the Federation ever faces an external threat, we'll need to understand each other's strengths. We'll need to work together, combining our different approaches to create something greater than any one species could achieve alone. That's what this exercise was really about. Not proving who's better, but learning from each other. Thexelar stood at attention and made a formal gesture of respect. Captain Petrov, I owe you an apology. I doubted your value as an instructor. I thought this exchange program was political theater. I was wrong. You have taught my warriors and me a valuable lesson today. No apology necessary, Petrov said. Healthy skepticism is good. You shouldn't take anyone's word without proof. I'd be concerned if you accepted everything humans said without verification. Trust should be earned, not demanded. The commander clicked his agreement. So what do you propose we do with the remaining time in this exchange program? Petrov grinned. Now we reverse it. Your warriors teach me how Kraliks fight. I'll show you human tactics, you show me yours. By the end of this program, we'll both be better soldiers because we'll understand how different species approach combat. Deal? Thexler's mandibles spread wide in approval. Deal, though I warn you, Kralik's close-quarters combat is not gentle. Good, Petrov said. I didn't come here for gentle. I came here to learn. Over the following weeks, the exchange program became something neither side had anticipated. Kralik's warriors learned human persistence tactics, psychological warfare, and long-range precision techniques. Petrov learned Kralik's close-quarters combat, multi-limbed fighting styles, and swarm tactics designed for their insectoid physiology. More importantly, both sides learned to respect each other. The Kraliks stopped seeing humans as weak soft-skins and began appreciating their mental agility and endurance. Petrov and the human delegation learned that species like the Kraliks, who appeared aggressive and militaristic, had their own codes of honor and sophisticated tactical traditions. Word of the successful exchange spread through the Federation. Other species requested similar programs. The Vorath wanted to learn human winter warfare tactics. The Delphinians were interested in submarine combat techniques. The Crystalline Collective wanted to study human approach to energy conservation in extended operations. Humanity was finding its place in the galactic community not by being the strongest or the most advanced, but by being different in valuable ways. The apex predator was teaching others to hunt more effectively, while learning new hunting styles in return. 6 months after the Cultural Exchange Summit, Ambassador Chen submitted a proposal to the Federation Council. He suggested creating a multi-species military academy where soldiers from different worlds could train together, learning each other's tactics and building mutual understanding. The proposal was unanimously approved. Captain Petrov was offered the position of chief instructor for asymmetric warfare at the new academy. She accepted, knowing that this was perhaps more important than any combat mission she'd ever undertaken. By teaching the galaxy's warriors to understand and respect each other's different approaches to conflict, she was helping build a foundation for lasting peace. On the day the academy opened, students from 47 species gathered in the main courtyard. They were all warriors, all proud of their respective species' combat traditions. Many were skeptical about what they could learn from aliens so different from themselves. Petrov stood before them in her dress uniform, her sniper's rifle displayed on the wall behind her alongside weapons from dozens of other species. She looked at the assembled students, these warriors from across the galaxy, and smiled. When I was asked what Earth's apex predator was, she began, I raised my hand. Not because humans are the strongest, fastest, or most dangerous species, but because we're survivors who learned to think like predators, to adapt like predators, to persist like predators. She gestured to all the students. Each of you is an apex predator from your world. Each of you has unique capabilities shaped by millions of years of evolution. Each of you brings something to this academy that no other species can offer. My job isn't to make you fight like humans. It's to help you become better versions of the warriors you already are, by understanding how others hunt. The students listened intently, their various sensory organs focused on her. Over the next year, Petrov continued, you'll be challenged, frustrated, exhausted, and occasionally defeated by techniques that seem alien to you. Good. That means you're learning. You'll discover that there are many ways to be dangerous, many paths to victory. You'll learn that the warrior who can adapt, who can think like multiple species, who can combine different tactical philosophies, that warrior becomes truly formidable. She paused, making eye contact with as many students as possible across all the species present. The galaxy is vast and full of unknowns. Someday the Federation might face threats we can't imagine yet. When that day comes, we'll need warriors who understand not just their own way of fighting, but all our ways. We'll need soldiers who can work together despite our differences, combining strengths to cover each other's weaknesses. That's what this academy is about, Petrov concluded. Not creating a uniform military force where everyone fights the same way, but building a coalition of apex predators who respect each other, understand each other, and can hunt together when necessary. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy. Let's begin. The students responded with their various species expressions of agreement and determination. Clicks, roars, burbles, crystalline chimes, and dozens of other sounds filled the courtyard. It was chaotic, discordant, and beautiful. Humanity had joined the galactic community as the apex predator that chose cooperation over domination. And in doing so, they helped create something unprecedented. A galaxy where apex predators from hundreds of worlds learned to hunt together rather than hunt each other. The human sniper who had once grinned and raised her hand now stood before the future of galactic security, knowing that humanity's greatest contribution to the Federation wasn't their lethality, but their willingness to share it in service of something greater than themselves. The apex predator had become the teacher, and the galaxy was better for it.